The sun had barely risen over the serene lake when the first signs of chaos appeared. Birds chirped, the water shimmered, and everything seemed perfectly ordinary, until Karen stormed out onto the dock. She was a local legend, for her strong opinions and zero tolerance for rule breakers. But this morning, she looked more determined than ever. With her hands on her hips, she pointed directly at a man calmly sitting at the end of the dock, sipping his coffee. "You can't be here! This dock is private," Karen shouted, her voice carrying across the lake. The man looked up, surprised but calm. "Actually, I can. I own this property," he said, gesturing to the lakefront that stretched far beyond the dock. Karen froze for a moment, disbelief written all over her face. You what?" He chuckled softly. "I bought the entire lakefront property last week. This dock, the shoreline, even the trees you've been walking past for years. It's all mine now." Karen's eyes widened, and she opened her mouth again, but no words came out. She had been policing this dock for years, telling neighbors which boats could dock and who could fish where, believing it was all hers to control. Today she realized she had been mistaken. Or had she? "You can't just tell me what I can do," Karen snapped, trying to regain her authority. Her tone was fierce, but her confidence wavered under the man's calm demeanor. He stood up slowly, taking in the beauty of the lake and the quaint docks, and then looked back at Karen with an almost patient smile. "I understand this might be a lot to take in, but legally, you don't have any claim here anymore. This is my property." Karen, refusing to back down, called out to anyone within earshot, gathering a small crowd of neighbors who had grown curious over the commotion. Everyone watched as two forces collided. Karen, defending what she thought was hers, and the man, calmly asserting his legal rights. The tension was thick. Conversations whispered from the shore, some siding with Karen out of habit, others silently rooting for the newcomer. Nobody knew what would happen next, and at that moment the stage was set for a confrontation that would be remembered in this small lakeside town for years to come. The crowd of neighbors had grown to nearly a dozen people now, their murmurs mixing with the gentle lapping of the lake against the dock. Karen's face was flushed with frustration. She clenched her fists, her eyes darting between the man and the small audience. "You can't just waltz in here and claim this dock like it's yours," she shouted. Her voice, usually commanding, trembled slightly under the weight of uncertainty. The man stayed calm, letting her words hang in the air. "I understand this is unexpected," he said, "but the paperwork is clear. The dock, the surrounding shoreline, even the access paths. You now legally own nothing here, Karen." Karen's lips tightened into a thin line. She had grown up on this lake, her family visiting every summer. To her, this wasn't just about land. It was tradition, pride, a piece of her identity. Yet standing before her was a man who legally held a claim she had never imagined. One of the neighbors, an older gentleman named Tom, finally spoke. "Karen, maybe it's time to see reason. He bought the property fair and square." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Since when do you get to tell me what to do, Tom?" she snapped. But her voice lacked its usual sharpness, revealing the inner conflict she tried to hide. The man walked slowly to the edge of the dock, letting his gaze sweep over the lake. "I don't want conflict," he said. "I just want to enjoy this property. I thought I could start by introducing myself to everyone, maybe establish some ground rules, but I won't tolerate harassment or threats." Karen crossed her arms, her shoulders stiff. "Harassment? I've been protecting this dock for years. You have no right to—" "Karen," the man interrupted gently but firmly. "It's no longer about rights in the way you think. Legally, it's mine, but I want this to be peaceful. There's no need to escalate." Karen's jaw tightened. The crowd held its breath. For a moment it seemed like she might storm off, leaving the man alone on the dock, but instead she froze. Her mind raced. Could she truly argue against legal ownership? Could tradition outweigh legality? The lake reflected the early morning sun, sparkling as if indifferent to the human drama unfolding along its shores. Karen's emotions were a storm. Pride, anger, confusion, and a hint of curiosity about this calm, confident man who now owned what she had long believed was hers. For the first time in years, Karen faced a situation she could not control, and in that brief, silent pause, the entire neighborhood realized that the confrontation had just begun. Karen's mind raced as she paced the dock, her heels clicking against the wooden planks. The man remained seated at the end, calm and unbothered, sipping his coffee as though nothing unusual were happening. His calm demeanor only fueled Karen's frustration, and yet deep down, she couldn't deny the truth. He had the legal papers, and she didn't. "People are talking," Karen finally said, turning toward the small crowd. "You all know this dock has been part of our lives for decades. You can't just let him take it over." A few neighbors exchanged uneasy glances. Some had long been loyal to Karen, trusting her judgment. Others, however, couldn't ignore the paperwork clearly showing the man's ownership. Whispers filled the air, some defending Karen's legacy, others advocating respect for the law. Tom, the older neighbor who had tried reasoning earlier, stepped forward again. Karen, maybe we should hear him out. If he's willing to compromise, maybe we can find a way for everyone to enjoy the lake. Karen scoffed. Compromise? This isn't about compromise, Tom. This dock is ours! The man stood, finally addressing the crowd. I bought this property with the intention of enjoying it responsibly. I'm not here to take anyone's memories or traditions, but I do need everyone to respect the boundaries. This dock is part of my property, and I will enforce my rights if necessary. His calm but firm words seemed to shift the energy around the dock. Karen's fiery anger began to mix with unease. She realized that escalating, the situation could turn the neighbors against her, and she wasn't sure she was ready to fight a legal battle. Then something unexpected happened. A young family from across the lake, who had always admired Karen's dedication, stepped forward. Karen, the mother said softly, maybe it's time to try a different approach. This man isn't trying to hurt anyone. Maybe we can work together. Karen froze. She hadn't anticipated anyone siding against her instinctive resistance. Her pride struggled against reason. She had built her identity around defending this dock. But maybe, just maybe, there was another way. The man nodded at the family, smiling slightly. I'd like to propose a solution. Let's create a shared schedule for the dock. You, Karen, can still enjoy it. And the rest of the neighborhood can too. That way, traditions are preserved without violating property rights. Karen's mind whirled. Could she trust him? Could she truly step back and let go of control? For the first time, she realized that compromise didn't mean defeat. It could mean coexistence. The lake shimmered under the morning sun, reflecting the possibility of peace in the midst of conflict. Karen's decision would set the tone for what came next. Karen stood at the edge of the dock, the weight of the morning's events pressing on her shoulders. The man, calm and collected, waited patiently. The crowd had thinned, leaving only a few neighbors who had stayed to witness the final decision. For Karen, this moment felt like a crossroads. One step forward, and everything she had defended for years would change forever. She took a deep breath, letting the breeze over the lake calm her racing thoughts. Her eyes met the man's, and she saw no malice there, only patience, respect, and an understanding of the human need to preserve memories while respecting boundaries. You know, Karen began slowly, her voice quieter than before. I never expected someone to actually buy the lakefront. I thought I had control here for life. The man nodded. I understand. This lake means a lot to people. I don't want to erase anyone's history. I just need my rights respected. Karen looked down at the dock beneath her feet, imagining the summers she had spent there. The laughter, the fishing lines cast into the sparkling water, the quiet evenings with friends and family. Letting go of absolute control felt strange, almost painful, but she realized that clinging to ownership in her mind wasn't the same as preserving memories. After a long pause, Karen straightened her shoulders. All right, she said. Her tone was firm but measured. We'll try your schedule, but I want to make sure the community still has access sometimes. It's part of our lives, too. The man's smile widened, genuine and warm. Deal. I want this to work for everyone. Tom and a few neighbors nodded in approval. The tension that had filled the air hours earlier seemed to lift, replaced by cautious optimism. The dock was no longer a battlefield. It had become a place of cooperation. Karen and the man shook hands, the gesture simple but symbolic. The lake reflected their images, glimmering like a promise of new beginnings. For Karen, the lesson was clear. Respect and communication could preserve tradition without defying the law. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light across the water, Karen finally felt a sense of peace. She had faced her own stubbornness, her pride, and her fear of change, and she had come out stronger. The dock was no longer hers in the way she once thought, but it was still part of her life, intertwined with memories and now shared respect. The neighbors lingered, some chatting, some quietly watching the lake. Laughter returned, lighter this time, without tension. Karen glanced at the man and nodded. I think this could actually work. He smiled. It will. We just have to try. And with that, the lakefront returned to its rightful rhythm, a place where memories, ownership, and community could coexist in harmony. The story wasn't just about a dock, it was about learning to let go, trust, and find peace, even when life challenges what we think we own. If you enjoyed this crazy lakefront showdown, hit that like button, comment what you would do if you were in Karen's shoes, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild HOA and Karen stories.